Welcome back, everybody, to part 2 of the normal distribution. Hope you enjoyed part 1 and practiced your skills, because we're going to put them to use right away. Let's jump right in. All right, our first example. Population of men has a mean weight of 172 pounds and a standard deviation of 29 pounds. What is the probability of a randomly selected man will have a weight of less than 174 pounds? All right, so we're going to do some of these together. I'm going to ask you to do some of them on your own, and then we'll talk about them after you give it a try. But the first thing we need to do here is we need to find our z-score. So the first thing is we're going to say find z-score. And we need to remember what our z-score formula is. So z equals x minus mu over our standard deviation, or sigma. So from our problem, we find that x is the weight we're looking at, which is 174. Our mu is stated in the problem. Mean weight of 172 pounds. And our standard deviation, again, said right in the problem, 29 pounds. All right, so we have our values straight out of the problem, and they were stated right in the word problem. So I have z equals 174 minus 172 over 29, right, which winds up being 2 over 29, and I get 0.067. Now, as we saw from part 1, our z-score only goes to the hundredths place, so we're going to round to the hundredths place. So we're going to say z equals 0.07. Now I always want to draw a picture, all right? So number 2, so our second step is that we're going to draw a picture. Drawing a picture gives us a feel for not only where our z-score is going to land in a kind of a check on what our value should be, but it also is going to tell us, you know, based on the word problem, do we want area to the left, area to the right? And I always believe that it's better to put these things on paper than try to keep them in your head. So there's my middle, there's 0, and probably a little closer, but 0.07 is going to be a little bit to the right. Now, in our problem, we said we wanted the probability of a weight less than 174. So we want less than 0.07. Well, less is to the left. So we want our area to the left. So basically, we just need to find out what the area is to the left of 0.07. So we go to our chart, we go down the z column, all right, and we find our value, 0.0, and then go over to 7. And we find that our area is going to equal 0.5279. And I would always say, get in the habit of writing, is the probability that the man will have a weight of less than 174 pounds. So the great part about this is that the math itself is not difficult. It's a matter of drawing it out, being precise and making sure that you're looking things up on your table exactly right. All right, so example 2 says, high levels of cholesterol in the blood increase the risk of heart disease. For 14-year-old boys, the distribution is normal with a mean of 170 milligrams per deciliter and a standard deviation of 30 milligrams per deciliter. What is the first quartile of the distribution of blood cholesterol? All right, so now I'm asking a slightly different question, but I'm pretty much giving you the same information. So we're going to start by making a picture. So whenever we talk about making a picture, it's always, we're talking about the normal distribution. There's my 0. And I'm looking for the first quartile. So I'm going to go less than 0. And I'm going to pick a spot where I'm going to have some z. But my area in here is going to be 0.25. And basically, they're saying what value is at the first quartile. So the next thing we need to do is find z. And the way we find z is we go to our chart. Now, instead of looking on the left column at our z column, I'm going to look inside the belly of the chart for 0.25. Now, I don't quite find 0.25, but I do remember from part 1 that these values are rounded because they go out way more decimal places than 4. So I'm going to take a look and try to find the area closest to 0.025. I found an area equaling 0.2514, which is pretty close. And the corresponding z equals negative 0.67. All right, so now I found z. Now the thing is, I have to go backwards and find what level of cholesterol gives us the corresponding z. So for 3, now I'm going to say we're going to find x. Because in our z formula, right, the x value was the value in the last problem that we were looking for. So I'm going to say negative 0.67 equals x minus 170, which was our mu, over 30, which was our standard deviation. And now I'm going to ask you to pause the video and try to find x. All right, so again, it's just a little bit of algebra. So I hope you had very little difficulty finding x. I got x equals 149.9. So since we can't have 0.9, we really don't measure cholesterol in tenths. We're going to round to the nearest whole number. So the conclusion is the first quartile of blood cholesterol levels in a 14-year-old is 150 milligrams per deciliter. All right. Great. All right, example 3. Slightly longer one. I have 2 parts to it. So we're going to do, obviously, the first part first. Each month, an American household generates an average of 28 pounds of newspaper for recycling. Assume the standard deviation is 2 pounds. If a house is selected at random, find the probability of it generating, and the first part says between 27 and 31 pounds per month. All right. Well, the first thing I want to do is I want to draw a figure. So I'm going to scroll up. All right, and I'm going to change my color just for a little contrast. All right, I'll go to lighter color, go to blue. All right, so we're going to draw a figure. All right, and my average is 28, so that goes in the middle. And 31 is up here. 27 is down there. So we're going to straddle our average, which means that I'm going to assume the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to try to find a z-score, right? I'm going to find z-scores. So I want to find the z-score for 27, and I want to find the z-score for 31. Now, since the 27 is on the left side of my average, I need a negative z-score. So that's going to help me to know that I'm on the right track if I get a negative number. So my z formula says x, which is 27, minus 28, which is our mu, over our standard deviation, 2. And I find that my z-score for 27 is 1/2. Now for 31, I should get a positive z-score because it's on the right side of 28. So I have, 31 minus 28 over 2. And when you do the math, you find the z-score for 31 is 1.5. Now we have to look up our corresponding areas. This should be negative 1/2, not 1/2. All right. So when I look up my area for negative 1/2 as my z-score, my area, I'm going to scroll up a little bit. My area is 0.3085. And when you look up your area for a z-score of 1.5, I get an area is 0.9332. You can always confirm them by going to the chart and finding those areas. Now I want to go back up to my drawing, all right? Basically, what I'm looking for here is I'm looking for this area in the middle. All right, so I'm taking the area of 31, area to the left of 31, and then I want to subtract the area to the left of 27. And if I do that, I get 0.9332 minus 0.3085. If I subtract those two, then I get 0.6247. And that should be my answer. There are other ways to do it. For example, and we can talk about those anytime. But I want to go on to part B. All right, because part B gives us yet another situation that we have not confronted. So part B is all the same information we had from part A. But part B says we want to generate more than 30.2 pounds per month. All right, so again, if I draw a quick picture, I always think drawing a picture for these kind of things is really helpful. And we're looking for area to the right now. All right, so the first thing I want to do is I want to find my z-score for 30.2. So I have my x is 30.2 minus my mu, which was 28, over my standard deviation of 2. And remember, I got those from the initial problem. So why don't you pause the video, do the math real quick, and we'll get our z-score. All right, hopefully you paused the video and did the math. I got a z-score of 1.1. And now I want to go back to my chart. I'm going to look up 1.1 on my left z column. And I get an area equaling 0.8643. Now that is area to the left of 30.2, and it certainly makes sense because I'm well beyond my mean. Now the area here, just up to the mean, would be 0.5, and I am beyond my mean. So it makes sense that it's an area of above 0.5. However, I want the area to the right. Right? I want the area over here. Right, now that's got to be less than 0.5. And the way I'm going to get that is I'm going to say 1 minus 0.8643. And when you do the subtraction, I get 0.1357. All right, and then I always like to write that little extra to bring in the context of the problem, to say that it is the probability that a randomly selected house will generate more than 30.2 pounds. All right. All right, so here are just a couple of examples of different situations you might find yourself in. We had one where the area was less, so we found the area to the left. We had one where we wanted to find the value, the probability greater than, so we found area to the right. And we had one where we had the area and we needed to find the z-score. All right, between these situations, this is most of what you're going to find in your homework. And this is most of what you're going to find in your class. Thank you for listening, and I look forward to seeing you soon.